The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, why do you say that the birth of a bodhisattva is far superior to the births of all other sentient beings?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, there are 4 reasons. First, that birth is engendered from the most pure good roots. Second, it is taken up through the power of their penetrating thought. Third, the compassion of their birth delivers sentient beings. And fourth, being undefiled, they are able to remove the defilement of others." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, why do you say that all bodhisattvas produce an expansive vow, a wondrous vow, a superior vow?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, there are 4 reasons. All bodhisattvas are well able to realize the happiness of abiding in cessation. They could quickly realize it, yet they renounce that rapid realization of a joyful abode. Without being impelled by external causes or internal necessity, they produce the mind of that great vow, because they desire to benefit all sentient beings. They remain among great sufferings of various kinds for a prolonged time. Therefore, I have said that they produce an expansive vow, a wondrous vow, a superior vow." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, how many precepts must all the bodhisattvas observe?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, the precepts of the bodhisattvas are the 6 perfections of giving, discipline, patience, zeal, meditation, and wisdom." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, of these 6 kinds of precepts, how many are included within the precept of high discipline? How many within the precept of high thinking? And how many within the precept of high wisdom?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, the first 3 are included within the precept of high discipline. The single perfection of meditation is included within the precept of high thinking, and the perfection of wisdom is included within the precept of high wisdom. I teach that the perfection of zeal pervades them all." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, among these 6 precepts, how many are included within the requisite of merit, and how many are included within the requisite of wisdom?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, that which is included within the precept of high discipline is synonymous with that which is included within the requisite of merit. That which is included within the precept of high wisdom is synonymous with that which is included within the requisite of wisdom. I teach that both zeal and meditation pervade both kinds of requisites." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, how do the bodhisattvas observe these 6 precepts?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, there are 5 aspects under which they must observe these precepts. The first is that from the first they must have an intense faith in the wondrous doctrinal teachings about the perfections as found in the Bodhisattva canon. The second is that they must zealously cultivate the wondrous wisdoms accomplished through hearing, reflecting, and meditating in the 10 practices concerning doctrine. The third is that they must nurture thoughts of wisdom. The fourth is that they must draw near to a spiritual counselor. The fifth is that they must cultivate good qualities without interruption." The Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, why have you presented these precepts as 6? The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, there are 2 reasons. In order to benefit sentient beings, and in order to counteract all the passions. For the first 3 precepts benefit sentient beings, while the latter 3 counteract all the passions. the first three benefit sentient beings, for by giving, all bodhisattvas provide requisites to benefit sentient beings. By being disciplined, they benefit sentient beings in sparing them from injury, oppression, and irritation. By their patience under abuse, they are able to benefit sentient beings, enabling them to patiently sustain injury, oppression, and irritation. The latter three counteract all the passions, for by zeal the bodhisattvas, although they may not yet have suppressed all their passions forever, or may not yet have eliminated all their passionate inclinations, are able diligently to cultivate good qualities, and all those passions become incapable of reversing their efforts toward goodness. By meditation they do suppress their passions forever, and by wisdom they eliminate their passionate inclinations forever. The Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, why have you presented the other perfections as four?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva of Avalokiteshvara and said, "Good son, it is because they are aids to the former six perfections. Bodhisattvas who assist sentient beings by means of the first three perfections of giving, discipline, and patience, establish sentient beings in good by means of taking care of them in the skillful methods of all the four kinds of attractions which are giving to beings, encouraging them with speech, benefiting them with action, and identifying with them. Therefore, I have taught that the perfection of skillful methods is an aid to the first three perfections. But because of Bodhisattva's present condition in the world, their passions are numerous, and they are yet incapable of uninterrupted practice. Because of their fragile commitment and the worldly quality of their understanding, they are incapable of abiding within their own minds. Because they are incapable of properly practicing the exercises heard in the Bodhisattva canon, the meditation they do have is unable to produce transcendent discernment. However, they have accumulated the requisite of merit in some small part, and in their minds they do engender a vow to lessen their passions in the future. Because of this vow, their passions weaken, and they become capable of practicing zeal. Therefore, I have taught that the perfection of vow is an aid to the perfection of zeal. When bodhisattvas draw near a spiritual counselor and listen to doctrine with true intention, this becomes a cause for their turning away from an inferior commitment and toward a superior commitment, for they become able to attain an otherworldly understanding. It is this that is termed the perfection of power. Due to such power, they become capable of abiding within their own minds. Therefore, I have preached that the perfection of power aids the perfection of meditation. If such bodhisattvas are able to properly cultivate the exercises they have heard, they become able to produce meditation. And this is what is termed the perfection of wisdom. Because of this wisdom, they are able to produce transcendent discernment. Therefore, I have preached that the perfection of wisdom is an aid to the perfection of discernment.